Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about how I memorized 150 piano pieces in 1 year. This was in 2017, and actually I uploaded all of them to YouTube as well. So if you search David Chang 150 piece challenge, you'll find them. And if you search 100 piece challenge, I did that in 2016 as well. And technically it's even more than 150 pieces in 2017, because if they were too easy, I would count 2 of them as 1 piece. So how did I do that? And on this channel, I hope to share with you all strategies, mindsets, methodologies, and so on that'll help you in your piano practice and maybe even other areas as well. So I did make another video recently called Why I Memorized 150 Pieces in 1 year, piano pieces. So you can certainly search for that if you want to know some more context. And this is just at a high level, really how that was possible to memorize so many pieces. So some of you may know I have created all these unique methodologies through relentless practice, research, experimentation over many years. So I've been playing for a very long time, been teaching since I was a teenager for a very long time. And I sometimes say, as part of my little story, as I finished my master's and just went off on my own, I was sometimes practicing 6 to 8 hours a day, sometimes 8 to 10 hours a day. During that time, as I thought, I'm only young once, why not get as good at this instrument as I possibly can? And also, since I'm on the planet only for a limited amount of time, why would I not learn how to advance with the maximum efficiency and quality possible? Because the decisions that we make moment to moment through just logical reasoning, through creativity and so on, that could greatly impact our progress. And it's that sort of thinking that led to the development of all these different methods and strategies and all these other things that you hear about on the channel. So of course I would always apply them on myself. I would always apply them on all of my students, and anything I tried on my students, I try on myself. Anything I tried on myself, I try on my students. I also read tons and tons of books, tons and tons of articles. I iterated many times and so on, right? So that's the general story. And basically, obviously, I used those methods. I mean, the 100-piece challenge in 2016 and the 150-piece challenge in 2017, they were partially ways for me to test if the methods were strong enough and to iterate them and make them even stronger. Because it's only if you're pushed to your limits that you will improve, because you think well, I'm at the rate that I'm going, I'm not going to make it, so I'm going to have to get even more efficient somehow. I'm going to have to make the methods even more efficient somehow. So it was sort of like a force function of making them improve within a shorter amount of time, both testing that they work and making it so that they had to get better within a set time period. And some of it was, a big part of it was choosing the right pieces as well too, right? So if you think about it, no matter what level you're at, if you memorize 150 pieces in 1 year, obviously they're not going to be pieces at the very limits of your ability, right? If you were learning pieces at the very limits of your ability, assuming that they're of a medium to long length, it could be just 1 or 2 pieces, massive pieces you're learning in an entire year. It could be 3 to 5 pieces or something like that. It could be 6 to 10 pieces if they're not at your utmost limits. So if you're learning 150 pieces relative to the level of playing that you're at and the level of practicing that you're at, it's necessarily going to have to be, each individual piece, they're each going to have to be at a much lower level than your actual limit, right? So I had to choose lots of pieces that, for the most part, comparatively were very easy compared to my, full level of playing and everything. So I might find a whole bunch of Mendelssohn songs without words that are easier, a whole bunch of maybe just shorter pieces from a certain collection of books. I did a lot of Christopher Norton micro jazz, those are great. And I actually don't even remember all the, I found Beethoven German dances, and some of the works and such were larger as well too, but I just had to really plan out and find many different collections of pieces that for me were quite simple, right? So that was really important, just choosing pieces that of course would not make it so that it were literally impossible to accomplish the task. And then just going very quickly through my methodologies, I used my own logistical methodology, which is this complete planning of fingering, writing out every single finger number for every single note. I have a video on complete planning of fingering on the channel. You can search for that as well. I did complete planning of musical detail. This is like mostly writing out every single crescendo, every single decrescendo, all the soft to louds and loud to softs, and other things like where the right hand was more than left hand, where the pedaling is. Sometimes I would write in the pedaling as well, so I would just plan all that out so that, because it wasn't enough to just learn them, and they had to be learned at a very high musical level. I also have a YouTube video on that, right? Complete planning of musical detail, and I give some examples as well. So I did that. I used my own logical methodology. So you might have seen videos on like adding and reverse, rule of expansion, rule of transition, I think I also talked about, and solving both hand sets. And yeah, I guess, the 14 layers of strategy, that whole River Flows and You series on the channel talks to that. That's the one with the notational system where I have like funny little brackets with numbers inside of them. So no time to go into the details here, but basically, of course, I used my own logical methodology, which is supposed to result in the best decision-making possible, account for the learning research, account for logical reasoning, how the brain works, how practicing works, and all of that. I used my own physical methodology. This is what you see in like a lot of the YouTube shorts, like how I'm playing pieces that are that fast and that difficult. At a very high level, it involves cycling through many different metronome speeds for each piece or section, and then doing what I call altered rhythm asides, like doing little groupings of very fast notes sometimes and doing some other things as well to unlock some of the higher metronome speeds. And once I do slow, medium, fast metronome speeds, I'll go back down to the slowest metronome speeds over and over again. Sometimes this wouldn't be necessary for these pieces because of their difficulty, but sometimes it would be. And I would be using my like all loud, in quotes, touch. I would be using, what for me, great technique is to the best of my abilities and everything. So everything I know about how to end up physically playing fast, difficult pieces and so on, I'm also applying here, even for these relatively simpler pieces, so that physically I can grasp them as soon as possible. I don't have extensive videos on that on YouTube, but you can see many examples of my metronome practice and some other concepts about altered rhythms, very quickly relaxing, holding and relaxing. If you see my YouTube shorts, I don't know, maybe eventually there'll be some more long form videos on that. And I also did a ton of mental practice. There are some videos on mental practice on the channel. There's one called I think the strongest memory technique for pianists. There is one on mental practice. I think I'm going to make another one soon as well. There's one on mental practice where I'm in Central Park or something like that, and I give some examples there. So hopefully there'll be more in the future. So this is just practicing purely only in the mind. And this is essentially your pure conscious awareness of what you're doing. So things are not just muscle memory. They're not just mindless repetition. So it enables you to start from anywhere in the music. I could go on and on about it, but basically I did a ton of that as well. And also just my general mindset, right? The way that I'm approaching things, the way that I'm thinking about things, conceiving of things, looking at the world, looking at my practice. As a general rule, I worked a lot on that to be able to achieve this goal. So I've got quite a few videos on mindset and thinking and all that on the channel. Top level strategy, how I'm combining and tying all these different methods together with each other, and then to me as a whole person, and how do they all work in tandem? What's my daily practice routine? There's a lot of what I call top level strategy around those things. Let's see, I also had public accountability, so I announced it on social media. I posted videos on YouTube and they're still here today. So I think the fact that I announced the goal and then I held myself accountable to it, because I'd already told everybody to do it, so it'd be kind of lame if I failed. So I think that public accountability was also a big driving factor as well. Imperfectionism, I think I made a video about that quite early on. I mean, basically what I'm doing right now, it's imperfect conditions, nothing fancy, no editing, just my phone, just prop it up. Doesn't matter if the conditions are not ideal. Doesn't matter if the playing isn't perfect, if the recording quality isn't the greatest, if there's no fancy cameras, no fancy angles. You just have to get the work done, right? So I really embraced imperfectionism and just being okay with kind of whatever the videos turned out to be. The most important thing was to just share the music and get the videos out there. Another really big thing was recording at least 3 pieces a week, right? Because there's 52 weeks in a year, and lots of things can happen throughout the year, right? You think about over the course of the past year, like the holiday season, like birthdays, other events, like you're away and so on. So how can you stay consistent? Well, you really gotta record stuff in advance and stay ahead of the game. So it's like if you record 3 pieces a week, then you'll have over 150 pieces by the end of the year. I had to stay at least like 5 weeks ahead. That means I always had at least 15 videos pre-recorded pretty much. And then if I ever fell behind, like I've only got like 9, I'm only 9 videos ahead. I'm like, no, I gotta get 15 videos ahead as soon as I can, right? So that's how far ahead of the game I was always staying. You account for all possible things that can come up. I will just say that definitely had some life things come up that year, and it did not affect the release of the videos whatsoever because I had planned always so far in advance. And finally, I think the last thing I'll say for right now, looking at the notes, is just chunking and batching huge amounts of the work. So that means when I'm recording videos in advance, a lot of the time I'm recording maybe like 3 to 5 pieces all at the same time, all in a row. I'm not trying to do one here and then one later in the day and then one tomorrow. It's probably just one day a week, or even one day every 2 weeks or so, where I'm recording like a whole bunch all in a row. And then all those other things that I talked about, I'm also batching as well. So for instance, when I'm writing out the fingering, I'm writing out fingering for like, could be 12 pieces, it could be like 20, 25 different pieces, believe it or not, like all in one go. Sometimes it lasts for like several days or a week, like just the writing and fingering. When I'm planning out complete musical detail, when I'm writing in, when you go from soft to loud or loud to soft, I'm writing that throughout like, just as many different pieces sometimes, and that's the work that I'm doing. And when I am practicing my logical methodology, for instance, I am maybe solving like small sets, like I'm doing like 1 measure sets or 1 measure areas or 2 measure sets, 2 measure areas through like a whole bunch of different pieces at once and writing the notation for all of them at once. And if I'm practicing with the metronome, maybe I'm practicing with the metronome through like a dozen pieces all at once. So that is a huge part of what led to all this great efficiency, that I'm not like writing fingering for this one piece, and then I am planning musical detail for this one piece, and then I'm like doing metronome practice and logical methodology practice and mental practice and blah, blah, blah. And then I'm recording just that one video. Nope, it was always, each part of this was batched to be as efficient as possible, because you don't want to have one person do every single part of the assembly line. You want to take one task and focus single-mindedly on it and cover a huge amount of area, and then you can take the next task, focus single-mindedly on that, and then cover again a huge amount of area. And I think I said that would be the last point, but basically I also staggered the work, right? So it could be that I'm recording like a whole bunch of videos on a given day, but I'm also doing planning for like a whole bunch of videos on that given day. And then the next week, I'm recording the videos that I planned the previous week, and I'm planning out new videos that I'll record the subsequent week. That's just like kind of 2 different levels or 2 different stages. There can be many more different levels or stages of completion that you can plan out if you're smart about your staggered strategy. So anyway, I hope that this was helpful and inspiring some things in your piano practice, and maybe even some things in the rest of your life if you're trying to tackle some huge projects, in terms of ways and modalities of thinking that you can entertain, and hopefully you can start to stimulate your imaginations. So yeah, if you found this valuable, please like, subscribe, tell people about the channel, and let me know if you have comments as well too. I'm happy to make follow-up videos and things, because I think this is something that probably interests a lot of people, how it's actually possible to memorize so many pieces. You can see some of it is due to specific methods that I'm not going into detail about here, but you can explore on the rest of the channel. Other things are very tied to like strategy and mindset, and if there's anything you're super curious about, I'm very happy to expand on it. So yeah, all right, see you guys next time.